Hi, my name's Barbara and I'm a key worker for the Children and Family Wellbeing Service at Leicestershire County Council. Regularly within my role, I use the Neglect Toolkit. I use it both with families to start a conversation about where they are and kind of to involve them in the discussion about why we're worried around neglect about their children and actually what it is we want to be seeing. Families, don't always respond well when we call it the neglect toolkit. So sometimes I say to families that we just ignore the neglect bit and let's look at it as a toolkit where we can have a conversation about what's going on for you and your family and actually how we can move you to kind of the more of the green column so that people are less worried about the children in the home. At other times, I use it as a desk exercise as part of an assessment, and I can complete that based on the knowledge that I have from other agencies and from conversations of having with the children. And that can then be used as part of an assessment to either show families and agencies that there is a worry and it can identify the work that we need to do with the family around those specific areas, or in some cases it even shows actually that some of the worries are not founded, because actually when we've gone back and we've spoke to the parents and we've asked them the questions around those topics, it shows that there's not an issue, and maybe just for example in the school is not seeing the full picture, but by completing the neglect toolkit we're able to get a more holistic view of what is going on in the family so that those worries that people have around the children are reduced. It is a big lengthy document and it does take time to do it, but when I've used it with families, consistently, maybe at the start of my intervention, in the middle, and when we're closing, it really does help to show families the journey that they've been on, and it makes the families feel proud of where they were, so it for me, I've used it many times, and the document, the toolkit is a positive tool to use, even if it doesn't always give you the results that you expected. It does give you an insight into what's going on for that family there and then, and allows you to have those conversations with the families. So if I think about practice, where I've used it in practice, and can give you an example, we had a referral in about a family, and there was a real worry around home conditions, school attendance, and kind of the children being fed good enough food in the home. School was seeing that children weren't particularly eating well at school, and they thought that kind of the child was losing weight, and that mum kind of presented as being a bit all over the place. When I sat down with mum with the neglect toolkit, I went out and I explained that we were there, just to see actually what's going on. And I always start when I do it, I start, we'll go for the green is where we should be, and we'll look at the red as to where we don't want to be, kind of if we're in red, we need to be looking at kind of child protection and stepping this up. And what that allowed was for a conversation to take place, and they were able to identify with the food, where we're looking about, do children get access to fresh fruit and vegetables on a regular basis, that meal times are consistent, and that diet is kind of good, or are we down at the red end where the food is not suitable and the parents put their needs first, so that they'll only feed the children when they're kind of thinking of themselves as being hungry. We may have issues with children, hoarding and storing food, and that causes issues also. Through having a conversation with mum, what we discovered was that actually mum does feed them, a very balanced diet. She showed me her fridge. We've got food in there. We've got fruit. We've got vegetables. We've got meat within the freezer. We'd also got chicken nuggets, fish fingers, chips, pizzas. Kind of the stuff that you had. But what mum kind of hadn't maybe taken into consideration was that meal times were not always consistent. So breakfast might not be, early in the morning. It might be, on a weekend more at 10 o'clock, and lunch times were, kind of all over the place and sometimes merged into dinner time. So through having that conversation, we were able to highlight actually the quality of food they were getting was really positive, but actually that consistency of when meal times wasn't. So we were able to put a bit of a plan in there with a family to improve that you know, consistency around meal times, that breakfast was between these hours and lunch at that one, and an evening meal at that one, you know, and that then really helped the children to know that they would get fed, you know, and it to be consistent, you know, but actually what they were feeding. So that opened that conversation. It reduced the school's worries, you know, about that issue. And you know, we were able to put a plan in place so that the family were able to move kind of more from the yellow section into the green section, you know, just by changing something. Equally with another family where we've used it, you know, we're looking at kind of supervision of preschool children, you know, about what's acceptable, what's not acceptable around bedtime, co-sleeping, bath time, and those. Again, I sat down with the family to do it, and you know, again explained what the red was, you know, kind of the child protection end of it, and where the green was, which is kind of the ideal of where we want to be. And again, we were able to negotiate, and by unpicking kind of some of the stuff that mum was doing, which was causing worry, you know, at nursery, we were able to kind of say, well, actually, to do this more safely, we could do X, Y, Z. You know, we had a plan in there to rearrange kind of the sleeping and the cot and the bedrooms around, so they were safer for the children. You know, again, we were able to have an honest conversation about what's going on. As other times, as a key worker, we complete quite an in-depth assessment, and we're often asked to complete a neglect toolkit just to, you know, to give a picture of what's going on. And again, just sitting at a desk, you know, reading through kind of previous case notes or the referrals, picking up what's worried, you know, completing that, and then going out to a family and explaining, you know, as part of the assessment, I've completed this. What do you think? You know, again, it's rather than sitting with a family and doing the neglect tool, it's kind of taking it back out to the family and saying, this is what I'm seeing through the referrals and the worries and through the conversations we've had. You know, where do you pick yourself on that? You know, and if I go back to the mum around the food, when we went on to review it, and I did the review as a desk exercise, so not necessarily going through each thing with her, she was really pleased that we'd be able to move things which were in yellow. I think she had the odd one in orange as well, but we were able to move it over to green. So again, she could see the progress that she was making by engaging and accepting the help and support from our service. So yeah, it is a positive tool. It does take effort from you as a worker, but it does give you kind of that information that you need in a different way. Equally, for another family, we've had them come in, and it's not, you know, the referral's been quite negative, and it's been, you know, does it need to sit with us, or do we need to, you know, consider speaking to social care about it? By being able to kind of complete that neglect toolkit is kind of got rid of some of the worries that have been shared, because we've been able to prove through completing that those worries even weren't there, and it maybe been a bit of a misunderstanding, you know, or that the things that have been in progress as progress has been addressed by the family. So maybe those worries have been reduced, you know, by using that.